Bronchitis, the real cause. If you know who Sweet Brown is, ain't nobody got time for that. Anyway, look it up. It's hilarious. What's going on, Secoya Nation? Dr. Schilling bringing you today's Wellness Wisdom. We're talking about bronchitis. And this is inspired by our participant we had come in earlier, John. And super excited to serve him with this information. So what are bronchioles? It's part of your airway. It's part of your lungs. And they're really tight little areas. And I know a lot about it because I used to have chronic bronchial constriction with asthma for 3.5, whatever decades, 4 decades, I don't know. So the lungs are a reactive airway. So just to preface this, if you like these videos, check us out on TikTok and YouTube, as we put out information to help you be empowered, to help yourself and the people you love. Because if you don't know, you don't know. And it's K-N-O-W. That's a Grant Cardone thing, if you don't know. Just a big nod to that joker. Anyway, so knowing what's going on in your body is helpful because it gives you empowerment to understand how can I change it. If the lungs aren't the problem, where's it coming from? Well, in our world, and remember this is how we approach everything, and if this isn't your jam, it's cool. But how we approach things is to say, if you have not had an injury, like somebody stabbed you in the lung or you've been kicked in the chest by a horse or something like that, you shouldn't have any lung issues. Now, I spent most of my life thinking I was just limited by asthma, and I thought, well, I'm just SOL. If you know what SOL is, look it up. I don't have a chance until I basically fired my asthma and allergy specialist, and I didn't have bronchitis, but I had chronic airway inflammation. In Chinese medicine, we talk about the large intestine lung airway connection. It's the meridians that are intertwined. So the lungs react to the outside world, but they also react to the inflammation on the inside. So if you have lung issues, I can guarantee you have gut issues, okay, first and foremost. But there's deeper meaning to it. So if it's not the gut, and it's not the pollen in the air, you know, because why do I not have issues with pollen but you do? Or ragweed, or dust, or hay, like I do. I have issues with hay. You might not. So the lungs are about fear. Lungs are about grief. Lungs are about sadness. Just think about when you feel heavy, like, huh. It's just your chest sinks. So when you think about that, you can say, okay, all right, am I dealing with grief? You know, our dear friend John was dealing with, passing his brother 20 years ago. Wild, and it's just the correlation between it all. So it can be grief, sadness, fear of loss, fear of failure, fear of being exposed. It's a big one, right? I can't imagine how much of my life I spent worrying about it. Was I going to please everybody? Was I going to do the right thing? Was I going to be successful enough? That's my story. That's what affected my lungs and my asthma. But for you, it could be something different. So are you afraid? Are you feeling timid? Are you holding back? Are you like, oh God, what are they going to think? What are they going to say? That could be affecting you. And so some people say it's like somebody has too much of their air in my space. I can't breathe well. Right now, my lungs are constricted because their air is being forced upon me, which means their presence or their authority is being enforced upon me. So that can be, between that, it could be a fear of separation, like a child could fear separating from a parent, or could have a relationship that feels distant and separated from a parent, and then they fear it getting worse. They feel further separation. Because if you don't know, parents are your lifeline. If you lose your parents, you're psychologically, your brain says you are now and have no one to provide for you, and you are going to die. It's a fear of loss, fear of separation. So we talk about the territorial dispute. As far as it can be family disputes. You could feel like you live in an environment where there's bickering over here between these two people, and all of a sudden your lungs start getting affected because you're being suffocated by their disputes. Okay? It could be your dispute. I don't know. You figure it out for yourself. But you start to lose a sense of yourself in your territory. Like, I don't know how to navigate the world. I can't impose myself. I can't breathe in my own territory. So this is how we approach people with bronchitis, people with a mental, emotional, it's like a mind-body connection. Because again, if there's been no trauma to the lungs, there's no reason your lungs shouldn't work perfectly fine. You can go to the asthma and allergy specialist, and they can tell you that you have asthma, or you have this bronchitis, and you take this inhaler, or you take these steroids, or whatever it is, and treat your symptoms. But what happens when they come back every February? There's no real airborne allergens in February. I mean, it's raining right now, so there's to be like, well, it's the snow mold. There's going to be a bunch of rationalizations for it. But if you have a pattern that happens every year at the same time, you, in our opinion, Secoya Health version of life, you have a neuroemotional conflict that is unresolved. Okay? Our job is to help you resolve that so you can move on with your life and not have these reoccurring symptoms. Because symptoms don't tell you anything about causation. All they tell you is you have a symptom and you're being affected by something. So if you need help with this, let us know. We are here to help you. It doesn't have to be this complex. But if not, then find somebody who will work with you from the brain-body connection, help you resolve the conflicts in life, resolve how you react to life events, which then allows you to be empowered to actually do things about it in your life. And that's how we approach things. And if that's your jam, great. If you want to work with us, great. If not, that's cool. Find somebody else, but at least get to the root cause, because I can't tell you how many years probably I've taken off my life by taking asthma inhalers and steroids and stuff like that. But I'm coming back, baby. Here we go. I'm rebuilding my lungs. Anyway, so that's going to be your wellness wisdom for today. We hope it's been beneficial. Let us know in your comments below what you'd like to talk about, what you'd like to learn about, what was the biggest takeaway from you. Do you know somebody with bronchitis and you're like, oh my gosh, that makes perfect sense because Bob every year has this thing, okay? You're going to find patterns. Take a step back, look for the pattern, and the pattern's there, all right? We look forward to serving you again tomorrow. Have a great night. Bye-bye for now.